Broadcasting live from our studio in Boston, Solutions Review is proud to showcase Glean in the Solution Spotlight, a unique online event for industry professionals.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring Glean, and focused on how to put AI into action for enterprise search and knowledge discovery. If you're unfamiliar with Glean, here's how they might pitch it. What would it be like if Google and ChatGPT got together? Well, that would be Glean Assistant. Organizations are facing challenges with the explosion of knowledge across various applications. So today, we're going to show you how AI is revolutionizing enterprise efficiency. What you will see is generative AI for workplace search, powerful next-generation knowledge discovery that leverages deep learning models to understand your company's information and users' queries. And to walk you through this presentation and demonstration is Gopal Trivedi, Strategic Account Manager at Glean. Gopal, thanks for being with us.
Doug, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I've been looking forward to this one. The subject matter is right up our alley. Obviously, you guys are right in the forefront of the AI revolution, and I'm curious. I know you actually had a post on LinkedIn about what you thought the opportunity was when you first accepted the new position at Glean. Tell me a little bit about your perspective and what you see as the opportunity here.
Yeah, Doug, I appreciate your excitement. And look, I think this is a topic that really touches everyone, and that's why I'm excited to be representing the tech. And I think you were mentioning my LinkedIn post. You know, the funny thing is I've got to represent a number of disruptive technologies across my career. You know, technology is really game changing. And when it comes to a technology that impacts every single employee in the company, there's not a lot of those, right? There's technologies that focus on specific areas that might benefit you. But now think of I'm an employee and how do I go about my day-to-day work? And is there something that can help me do my job better, right? Those technologies we all end up, relating with. They become a household brand name. We have a personal, emotional connection with them because of what they're able to do for us, right? And we think of technologies like Slack. We think what they've been able to do in the workplace to help communication, right? And so Glean is one of those technologies that we're at the forefront of changing the way employees find information and go about their work in their companies. And that's part of why it's so exciting.
The AI revolution is taking many forms. It's happening in a pace that is quite frankly remarkable. And I think a lot of people are looking for the practical applications, and I think that's what we're going to see today. And so that's why I'm pretty excited about it. Before we get into this presentation, and there's a lot to cover, I want to set everybody's expectations that if you have any questions, and I expect that you will, by all means share them in the chat. We will take them in here. I will save them and bring them into a Q&A session at the end after the presentation. But for now, Gopal, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm looking forward to what you're going to share, and I might not be able to contain myself. If I interrupt, I apologize, but I'm very excited to see this presentation today. So have at it, and I'll catch up with you after.
Let's do it. So, I want to start with just a question of reflection. And if we think about search, right, and the concept of search, we're all relevant with that in our day-to-day lives. And if I were to say the word Google, when it comes to search, what's the emotional response that you feel about that, right? Generally, I think people think Google did a pretty darn good job of solving the search problem. It's usually the home screen that we all go to, the first thing that we open, whether it's on our laptop or on our phone to go find information. Now, take another pause and think about, is there something at work that has that same level of emotional reaction for you, that same level of excitement to say, hey, here's where I'm going to go to find my information? Unfortunately, what we found is what's been available to us in our personal lives just isn't quite there yet in the workplace. And the workplaces where, we need to, no pun intended, get a lot of work done, right? We need to look up a lot of information. We need to find things. We really need something like this. And yet this is a problem that's been very, very difficult to solve for a lot of good reasons. And Glean is here to tell you that you don't have to make trade-offs in your work and your personal life, that there's something that can give you that same level of productivity boost in your workplace. And so that's what I'm here to talk about. When we think of why this problem is there, why is it hard for me to find information? And it doesn't matter who I am, right? I work in the go-to-market organization at Glean. I work directly with our clients. So I'm meeting with customers every day. I'm trying to follow up with them. I'm looking up information to provide with them, right? I'm writing emails, I'm writing summaries, I'm talking to people internally. If I'm an engineer, if I'm an HR person, if I'm in finance, it really doesn't matter where you go. You really have to look up information. And today, the challenge is that information is across a lot of different areas in your company. We have Google Drive or OneDrive where you might store your documents. You have, Gmail or Outlook where you're now communicating. You have Slack or you have Teams where you're also communicating, right? You have so many different communication and content channels. If you're an engineer, you might be using Atlassian as part of the software development lifecycle, right? And the list just goes on. There's hundreds of apps here, and all of the things that we need to know to look up to be able to, the information lives everywhere. So that's the challenge is, Google can search the internet, but inside my company, I have to go look up a lot of different places to find what I need. And a lot of times I don't really know where to look. So companies have tried to create intranets, shared drives, SharePoint sites, different things, right? And I think we've done the best we can with the tools that we've had. And the other side of it is it's not just where is this information? Sometimes the question is who's the person I need to go talk to, right? Who is the expert that knows about some particular topic? Whether I'm an engineer, whether I'm a salesperson, whether I'm in customer support, I'm dealing with something and I need help and I need to go talk to someone. And often I don't know who that person in the organization is, right? So it's not just the data and the content, it's the people as well. And those people, the experts, they feel a lot of pain because they're getting hit constantly with all of these questions and they're thinking, hey, why isn't there an easy place for my teammates to go look this up? So, setting the table, setting the lay of the land of the problem statement, when you start to put numbers on it and add that up, what we found, and this is from McKinsey research, that, employees can spend up to 20% of every workday just looking things up, right? And when you start to add that up, these numbers, they become quite significant, 6.5 hours a week. And, this now is across the entire organization. As we've talked about before, it hits everyone, right? And some specific examples, if you're in engineering, right, you're troubleshooting bugs, you're looking up technical documentation, right? If you're in sales, you're trying to get onboarded, you're trying to understand your customers, you're trying to find information to provide them good service, right? If you're in support, you're trying to respond to tickets to either help internal or external facing clients. You're trying to look for experts. You're looking for technical documentation to solve different problems. If you're in HR, right, you're looking to help bring people into the company. You're looking through recruiting systems. You're looking through org charts, intranet tools, trying to help employees understand, hey, what days do I have off? How do I submit for PTO? Simple questions like that. It all starts adding up and it affects everyone. And what we've done here is we have a group of founders who have committed themselves to go solving this. And the amazing part is our founder, Arvind Jain, right, on the left here, along with Fish and Tony. Arvind was one of the principal distinguished engineers at Google, and he was part of the early search team. So Arvind knows search more than pretty much anyone else I know, and I would argue more than most people, right? As he led the whole revolution of Google solving this for the consumer market and for us. And then what Arvind, after leaving Google, went and co-founded Rubrik. And this whole concept of why can't I find and why can't my teammates find what they need to do their work? Why is it so hard? It was something that was compelling enough for Arvin and the team to go start a company. And that's what Glean's mission has been. We've now been a company for 5 years. So we've been working on this problem with 300 employees for a significant amount of time. We are Series D funded with over 300 million. We just recently had a big announcement. And we're very grateful to have, some of the tier one investors like Kleiner Perkins, like Sequoia, like Lightspeed as part of our investment team and helping us build this company. We have even folks who, led search at folks like Google, people like Cosmos, who are involved and who are, committed and compelled to help us to see what we're doing here and help us solve it. So that's the search part of this, right? And that's the part that all of us can relate with. And then comes, the buzzword that everyone's listening to these days and everyone's talking about, or maybe trying not to talk about, is generative AI, right? So we're all looking at generative AI, whether it's in our personal lives with, ChatGPT or different tools that we're using, or it's in an enterprise. And more specifically in the enterprise, Gen AI has promised to solve a lot for us and really take even enterprises, employees, products, and even humanity right into a next step. But if we just look at it from an enterprise perspective, there's a lot of big promises with Gen AI. Well, when it comes to this particular problem, what can Gen AI do? Gen AI has a lot of promise, but when it comes to LLMs and it comes to actually implementing this in an enterprise, there's a lot of challenges that come up. LLMs, they lack enterprise-specific knowledge. It's that thing I was talking about. My knowledge is everywhere in my environment. And how do I make sure my LLM can understand that, right? When we look at, training models, training a central model within a company with all your data, it's hard to do. There are, many smart folks and engineers out there, but having to go and build that, maintain that, make sure that it's secure and access, it's a whole challenge itself. We built a whole company based on some of these challenges, right? And imagine an organization that their business is not search. Their business is providing a specific service or client to their customer. For them, it's a significant effort. And then finally, building an enterprise grade, RAG solution, it's massive technical challenge. So when we think about AI for search, there's a lot of promise here and there's a lot of challenges as come with anything. So, how can we actually do this and how have we solved this problem here at Glean? When we think of Glean, Doug, you're absolutely right. You should think of Glean as ChatGPT and Google search across your entire corpus. But another way I like to say it is, imagine if there was an employee that's been with your company since day one. They've been in every meeting. They've read every document. They're available to you 24/7 to answer any questions you have. How powerful would that be, right? Not your everyday work companion. And they're right there with you to answer the thing you need to know when you need it most. That's what Glean is. We give you instant answers to your questions in a very familiar type of interface, whether it's through our interface in Google or inside the workflow and the applications that you're already working in, whether it be Slack or Zendesk or whatnot. It's search and chat together, right? So you can do a typical keyword search like you might do in Google, or you can use the language that you speak to your friends in chat and say, hey, what's the latest with this? Hey, who is attending this? Hey, can you help me with this? And the best part of this is it's completely turnkey. So Glean comes in, gets deployed, ready to use right out of the box. There's no engineering lift required on your end. We have over 150 pre-built connectors that we maintain and we take care of that can plug into all of the systems inside your company. So you don't have to worry about that. You can focus on being productive while we focus on delivering you the information you need to do that. Right. And that's part of what our horizontal reach approach that we call is. There's a lot of products that are coming out in specific verticals. And with AI being, such a game-changing thing, every single vertical, whether it's, Microsoft with Copilot, whether it's Google, whether it's, any of these specific applications are all building their specific AI tools to help them. Where Glean comes in is we are a horizontal solution across all of that. And you need something like that because your data is all over the place. Your information is all over the place. Your knowledge is all over the place, no matter what area that you work in, right? So whether it's communication applications, content, business applications, IT applications, people applications, right? And we're constantly expanding this reach. We're a 5-year-old company. We already have over 100 connectors, and we're going to be expanding that to make sure that we can really give employees access to all of the information they need in one place and the ability to synthesize that information easily. So looking into the technical stack of Glean and how we built this out, right? Because a lot of important comes when, well, how do I deploy this? Well, Glean is a SaaS platform. We deploy as a single tenant infrastructure to give you the security that you need to be able to deploy a solution like this inside of your corpus. I mentioned the connectors. We support all of the connectors natively, right? So they're not something that your group has to maintain. We're going to natively connect into your applications. And once we're connected in, we're handling the updating in real time to make sure that when you search with Glean, you have the most relevant data. And then we have our governance engine, which is our ability to make sure that when Gopal searches for something inside of Glean, Gopal can only see what he has access to. So we mirror the permissions from each specific application across your environment, and then we enforce those into the index to provide that secure experience, right? Just from these 3 layers of the stack themselves, we've talked with teams that have spent years just trying to get this part right before we even get to any of the fun stuff with the search or the AI or the chat, right? And when it comes to providing a search platform really only works if it works really, really well, right? If I have to go to the second page or the third page to find what I need, I'm probably not going to use that tool much. And so we put part of what our core IP and part of what our, if you will, secret sauce is what we call our knowledge graph, which is an understanding of all the content, the people, but also the relationships between those and the activity around that. And we built this knowledge graph, based on AI technologies, right? But also based on the expertise of some of the most advanced search engineers on the planet. And so that provides you this, amazing search experience where if I search for something, it's like Google. I get what I'm looking for in the first few results. And now you layer on the Gen AI capabilities on top of that. And we'll talk about that, a little bit more on why combining both of these things is so powerful. But now we go back to how this affects all different environments in your company. So if you're an engineer, you get to debug faster, right? You get to locate documentation faster. If you're a salesperson, you get to get onboarded faster. You get to respond to client requests faster. You get to, I get to feel smarter on sales calls with clients because I have Glean helping me out find answers, right? If you're in support, you get to support your customers faster. You get to close tickets. And if you're in HR, you get to push resources to your employees so they can understand the things that they need to know about going about their work quickly. And those are just some of the beginning use cases that we've discovered. I mean, the potential for this, once you provide this type of information, get it in the hands, is really unlimited in the sense of there are so many different ways, and we're continuously finding new ways our customers' workflows and our customers' jobs are getting accelerated by Glean. So I want to pause here and think about how AI comes into this, right? Because I mentioned there's a lot of excitement around how Gen AI can accelerate our work, and we mentioned that there's the hard part here is really bringing that into our enterprise in a way that's accurate and secure, right? And to tackle this issue, there's a lot of buzz around retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, and which is basically a pipeline framework where you take a search engine retrieved information and feed it into a large language model. And by what we've done here is by separating the ability of the model to generate coherent, well-reasoned responses, which LLMs do very well, from the responsibility of retrieving factual knowledge that they weren't really designed to do. And in some situations, they're trying to be forced to do more, right? Search engines do that really well, right? By separating these two out into two separate systems and bringing them together, we get an AI system that can provide more accurate, relevant information that's consistently grounded in real enterprise data, right? And here at Glean, we've spent years building the market's leading enterprise search engine. And the system underlying that has become the key to our RAG system. And it's enabled to provide the right Gen AI solution to those who don't want to spend years experimenting with third-party tools or millions of dollars building their own, right? Glean is capable of building a deep understanding of your business, from content to people to activity. And when we think about the impact here, we've talked about specific use cases, but a simple metric is, if I'm searching Glean, and our Glean users use an average today of 5 searches a day, right? And with those 5 searches, you're saving 2 to 3 hours a week. From a business impact, you're looking at a 40 to 50x ROI, if not more. But I think what more of us can relate with, aside from the numbers, is we've had customers who are now saying, hey, if I had to go to a company where I couldn't use Glean, I don't think I'd be very disappointed. I wouldn't feel good about that. I would miss Glean, and that kind of response is when you've really hit a product that's serving somebody. And so I think that's the part that we're most excited about here. And when we look at some of those customers that we've had today, right, we've had very large enterprise shops with very smart teams themselves that could tackle a lot of problems, but are relying and depending and partnering with Glean on solving those. We have shops like Uber, shops like T-Mobile, shops like Databricks and NVIDIA. And one of my favorites is Austin at Databricks, who said it was love at first search. And I say that because I also, have I use Glean every day to do my job. And so when I'm representing the product to customers, to prospects, I know the benefits because I see them myself every day. And with that, I want to take a pause, and I actually want to show you guys the product and jump into a demo here. And the cool part of this is every time I tab out, Glean is my homepage, just like Google would be. Now, I talked about how we're understanding and how we're building what we call this knowledge graph, right? And I want to start there because this is a login experience. So Glean knows who I am. It knows that I'm Gopal. It knows that I'm a strategic account rep. It knows what team I'm on, and it's building out an entire org chart here to understand who I am, what type of content I would be looking at, where my activity has been, what my teammates might be looking at, right? This is all the information that you really need to build a search engine that can give you really relevant results when you search for something. So I could search for something really simple, like, do we have off for Juneteenth, right? And starting at really basic searches that every employee might ask, right off the bat, now I see I have 86 results that I found. And the very first result is giving me my answer here, that we do have off for Juneteenth. But the cool part here is because I asked Glean in the form of natural language, Glean is the AI capabilities, which is Glean Chat, is now telling me, hey, you do have off. And by the way, here's the exact documents where you can look for. So I have the ability to interact with Glean in both the traditional search fashion and also in a chat GPT type of experience. So that's locating information, right? And we see that we're able to locate information very quickly at the top of the result and do it in a couple of different ways. But what if I want to find the person, who is the expert on something? So, here I'll say, we have a product called AI App Platform. And I'll say, who's the expert on AI App Platform? Let's say I was on a call and a customer was asking me about that. And, right away, what I'm getting an answer here is because it knows I'm a salesperson, it's telling me, hey, This is probably the information. It's external facing, so it's something I can share with the customer. I have, the Glean AI from sales enablement document. Again, a sales related thing. And then my assistant is actually telling me exactly who it is. It's Rohan, which is right, by the way. Hey, Rohan, if you're listening. So here I'm not able to just locate documentation and information that I need, but now I can go call Rohan and say, hey, Rohan, I got a really excited customer who wants to talk about our AI platform. Can you help me? Can you jump on a call? Right. And so again, we've started with finding information that's very specific that applies to everyone. Everyone wants to know, when their PTO is. We've who is the person. Let's look at something that's more very specific in a workflow and that's pretty complex. So let's say I am a new engineer at Glean on the job, and I get a Jira ticket that's open that wants me to deploy a new operation. Well, I don't know what the heck how to deploy out a new operation. So I'm just going to ask Glean, how do I deploy a new operation? And here I can see Glean is starting to produce results here. 17,000 results that is producing. And you can see on the right what Glean is searching across. So as I mentioned, our connector approach, we're connecting into all of the applications. I can filter by specific application. If I know that, hey, this thing is in G Drive and I want it to be there, I just want to give me these type of results. But in this case, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I just want Glean to help me. So here I have the assistant telling me to deploy a new operation, you'll need to follow these steps. And then it's now giving me the exact steps. So the cool part of this is it has looked through my entire corpus in my company across all of these different applications. It's through 17,000 different results. This has now found exactly what I need to do to go take care of this part of my job. And if I think about how long this would have taken me without something like this, right? Hours of looking through documentation or trying to find people or booking time on someone's calendar. And instead, I have this answer, but how do I know this answer is right? Right? Because when we think about Gen AI, we all worry about hallucinations. Well, I think the important part here is that with Glean, everything that's generated by its AI assistant is fully referenced, every line. And so here, it's giving me an answer, but it's actually referencing where I can go to validate that answer. It's where it got that answer from here. Every line is fully referenceable. And so that's what really the game changer that makes me feel confident in saying, okay, this is what I need to go move forward now. And so that's things like that are the difficult part, right? Minimizing hallucinations, ensuring that I can only see the results that I have access to see, that I should be able to see. I don't have access to our CEO's salary, for example, right? Those are the parts of this that really make it an enterprise aware and enterprise ready experience. And I'm going to take this a step further here. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to say, okay, well, that's great that that's how I do this, but can you give me examples in Python? Because when we think about co-pilots, right, and we think about this concept of there's a lot of tools out there that are helping developers write code, and those are great. They're awesome tools. There's this whole concept though, is what is the way that we do this in our specific enterprise? Right? What is the Glean way of doing this? And we have certain standards, we have best practices. And so, if I go out to the internet and the internet generates some code for me, how do I know that that's the right way that I was supposed to code that part of my application? This is where Glean comes in, because Glean has that enterprise aware context and is now able to tell you, well, hey, this is how, based on the technical documentation that we have, the best practices that we have, this is how this code should be developed and written. And, at the end of the day, making sure that we adhere to these best practices and standards, is everything for an engineering team. And so we're looking, through stacks like Jira, GitHub, Slack, Google Docs, entire Atlassian suite, but we're also looking through things like Teams, things like O365 to be able to give you all this data. And here you can even see where, again, it's fully referenced. So hopefully these were a couple of good examples to give you an idea and flavor. And this is a little bit of a day in the life of engineering. But we've had customers looking at Glean from all different types. As I mentioned, T-Mobile, they're in their customer support organization. We talk about sales organizations. If I have a meeting and I want Glean to help me write a follow-up, all of those things that we have seen Gener AI show the power of, we can now leverage inside of our enterprise, inside of our workday jobs. And that's why this is such a game-changing product for customers. If you look us up on the internet, we have some videos available of customer case studies. So you don't hear it from me; you're actually hearing it from our customers. Pure Storage, they use Glean at their company, and in the case study, they mentioned how Glean really removes the first hurdle of finding the document, but it also removes the second hurdle of having to read through the document, right, through the summarization capabilities, and that's helping Pure Storage customer support engineers who run into bugs and have to go into multiple systems. You look at shops like Databricks, where they're fast growing and there's a lot of content in a lot of places like G Suite, Atlassian, Salesforce, Slack. And they're all used by both technical folks and non-technical folks to build content. And so, we're helping the Databricks team find the relevant content they need and help them create the content that they need to. Lots more use cases, that I would love to keep talking about here, but I know we're coming up on time and I want to make sure we have some time for questions. So, I'll pause there. And with that, back to you, Doug.
There's a lot to talk about and certainly some questions as well. But before we get into all the questions, I'm curious about where you're seeing traction right now. So I've been on the website, and we would encourage everybody to go on the website. There's a lot of information there, a lot of resources, case studies and webinars and videos and so forth, white papers. But where are you guys seeing traction? So who are the early adopters right now?
Yeah, I think the early adopters, Doug, are exactly who you would guess they would be, right? They are the technology companies that have very high goals to innovate very quickly and are trying to find efficiency in every area of the organization possible. That's where we started. We started with those folks that said, hey, we need our developers to be able to spend as much time coding and as little time looking up information as possible. And so, I mentioned folks, like Databricks, like Pure Storage, like NVIDIA, like Uber. But then then from there, we went into organizations that were saying, hey, okay, there's developing a product, but how do I make sure my customer is having a great experience every time they're interacting with my company? And then we started going into customer support organizations, sales organizations, technical services organizations, where we were helping these organizations now interact with their customers and give them a better experience and happier customers. So now we're hitting both sides. We're helping you build a better product, and we're helping your customer have a better experience when you interact. And so every touch point now that a customer has between a company, Glean is able to come step in and be an assistant in that way.
Yeah, and I want to dig in on that point a little bit. Because ultimately, how you're using it and how you demonstrate it is effectively across the entire organization. My guess is Glean is using it across the entire organization. But I'm curious about those more specific lines of business, or actually just kind of use cases. So I know in the solutions section of your site, you've got examples in engineering, sales, support, in addition to kind of knowledge management. Can you dig in on that a little bit and where you're seeing Glean being employed within those types of organizations within organizations?
Yeah. So when we, dig in even a step deeper, we start to look at the tools and the applications that are required and where teams have to use multiple tools and applications every single day to either find information or to communicate with each other. And a big area of that is product engineering. So if I am a developer today, I have to, I have maybe the Atlassian suite, which is a number of products just in itself, right? Jira and Confluence. I have my code base. I have technical documentation around that code. But realistically, I'm also talking to a lot of people in Slack about what I'm doing, asking different questions. And just from that one example, I've already named 4 different applications that a developer has to context switch in between to go do their job. Imagine if they could just do all of that from one place, right? That's one example. Another example is, if I am a customer support agent and someone, I get a first call, someone calls in and they said, hey, I'm down and I have this, I'm going through this, I'm seeing this error. What do I do about it? Well, I'm a customer support agent. I've never seen this error before. How do I probably have to go spend an hour or two going to look up this error or talk to somebody or go find an expert. Instead, what if I could just put that error into Glean, and Glean could, in just a few seconds, go find exactly the last customer that ran into that error and how we're able to solve them. And that's exactly how it's happening and exactly how we're doing it today. So when you think about that, you think, hey, I can now, as a customer support agent, I can take maybe 20%, let's just be conservative, 20% of the time off of how long it usually takes me to respond. Well, my customer is going to be happier because they had to spend less time on the phone and I got them a resolution faster. But now I'm an organization and you multiply that where you have 20,000 customer support agents. From an ROI perspective, that's unbelievable, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing. And, we're happy to get deeper into those conversations if people would be interested.
I think people are going to be interested. And honestly, one of the messages I always deliver in these events is for all the folks who are attending and watching to reach out and engage. This is the best way to understand how your specific instance can be benefited by a cutting edge new solution like Glean. And honestly, it is a relatively easy process to engage in. We are a big fan of these types of events being a bit of a gateway drug to that level of engagement. And again, there's just no question that you'll learn a lot by just interacting with the folks at Glean and smart people like Gopal here. We're having some questions, and it makes sense. The ones that we're seeing, the first one is sensitivity around data security. Makes sense. I mean, your demonstration showed that Glean can go pretty deep into a lot of documentation. There's obviously a lot of connectors that can be brought into play, and obviously the question is where does the line get drawn, and how does the line get drawn with regard to data security and governance?
Yeah, it's a really, really important question. And when it, comes to specifically, search, but even more importantly, generative AI, it's the first question everyone asks, right? Because if you can't secure it, it doesn't matter how much it can help you. It's a complete showstopper because there's too much risk that's involved. And we've taken that very, very seriously. I think what customers have found with Glean is because we spent 5 years developing a search engine where security was the primary focus from the beginning, right? What we found is a lot of customers who are trying out some of the newer, GPT like tools out there. They focused on the AI part, and now they're trying to bring it into enterprise, and they have to go figure out the security part. We already figured out the security part first, and now we're bringing the AI part into it, which puts a customer in a really good position to say, like, for example, if I go into Glean and I deploy it in my environment, I'm an enterprise, Glean will go and search for all of my PII data that I may not have found, that I may not have tracked. And it will tell me, hey, by the way, all of this PII data is available. You might want to take care of that before you give your employees access to that, right? And so we're able to help customers. We're not going to put our customers in a bad spot when it comes to that because we've focused on making sure that you can deploy this in a secure way, because otherwise, it's a complete showstopper. And so our customers have found that when it comes to deploying Gen AI in a secure way, Glean is really one of the easiest ways to do that.
So obviously the world of work changed dramatically, and now we have remote and hybrid, and what we've seen in Solutions Review is this massive explosion of SaaS applications that are now all over enterprise organizations. Can you talk a little bit more and share a little bit about the connectors and how you bring in these disparate systems into a kind of a central knowledge hub that Glean might be able to leverage?
Yeah, that another really good question, Doug. So what you're describing is the data is all over the place, right? And unless I can tap into all of these different SaaS applications, and I can't get my data. Now, what we're doing is we are using the APIs that are native to these applications to connect in real time. We have an entire engineering team that's just supporting these connectors and ensuring that these connectors are secure and real time to bring in and index that information. Now, because we took an index search based approach, we're not relying on that SaaS application search because, let's be frank, like the whole point was if the SaaS application search works so well, then you wouldn't need Glean to begin with, right? So what we have done is using our index-based approach, which, there's technical people that could, get into this in a lot more detail than I could. But we have taken that approach instead of a federated approach to rely on an application. Now we're indexing the information and securing it and then maintaining it in real time across 150 different SaaS applications. We've mentioned a bunch of here, but all the ones that folks use today, and we have pretty good coverage across the enterprise, the base that we talk to. We're taking care of that. So again, so you don't have to. We've had other customers who try to go build their own solution, and they've had entire teams just maintaining these connectors, right? Now I got to keep this connector up to date. Now I got to make sure it's in real time. Now I got to make sure it's secure. Oh, the version. Oh, the person who was building it left and went to another company. Now it's out of date, right? All of those parts of the basic infrastructure, it's a lot of work for an organization whose business isn't search to go maintain. So when it comes to data science teams don't want to take care of connectors, right? They want to go build fun revenue generating applications, find new ways to leverage Gen AI in their environment. So at Glean, we say, hey, let us take care of that part, right? The not so sexy part, and go work on the stuff that really excites your business.
There's so much happening in this space, and I think a lot of people are trying to understand how it's all going to fit together and what are the kind of paths of least resistance. We have one question with regard to their team is looking at Microsoft Copilot, and how does that compare with Glean?
Yeah, so I know I've been doing a lot of talking here, and there's somebody that's a lot smarter than me that's on the call, Molly, and I'm actually wondering if Molly, who's one of our senior engineers here at Glean, wants to jump in and take this one.
So when we think about Microsoft Copilot, I think that there's two ways that you can kind of think of this. Firstly, Microsoft has really focused, of course, on their own core products. So they're looking for people that are dedicated Microsoft shops and who don't have data that exists outside of those main applications, right? So that's one of the key differences between Glean and Microsoft is that Glean really has the full picture of all of your data wherever it lives, right? We're not limited to just those applications that Microsoft owns. I think the other thing that's important when it comes to the difference between Glean and Microsoft is that Microsoft is really focusing in on content creation use cases. And while that is something that Glean can do, Glean is really focused on delivering that high-powered, personalized search across all of the different applications that you're using to give you that full picture. And we're not leaving anything out there. So when I think about a Copilot, versus Glean, I definitely see an opportunity where they can be used, together, kind of a better together type of thing, where maybe you do use that Copilot within some of your Microsoft systems, but Glean is really going to be the tool that gives you the full picture, and takes into account all of the sources that you have that might not exist within Microsoft, and when you're using a chat tool like this to say something like, hey, what's the status of this project, for instance? If you're leaving out some of the key data sources where that information exists, it means that you're missing critical information about what the status of that project actually is. So Glean really gives you that full horizontal snapshot of where everything stands. And I think Microsoft is really more focused in on those specific tools and kind of being able to leverage within the Microsoft environment. So while we do see some customers that are using both, I think T-Mobile is a great example there. Glean is really the tool that gives you the full picture rather than just that narrow scope.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm curious, and I'm not sure. Maybe it's you, Gopal, to talk a little bit about how you engage, right? So somebody may have a question like that, and obviously that was an excellent answer, but I think they probably want to understand how, and maybe even see how it might work within their particular environment. I mean, what is the process for engagement? How does somebody move through that kind of initial sales meeting and begin to walk down through some sort of a proof of concept or demo?
Yeah, well, first of all, both Molly and I, one of our favorite parts of the job is engaging with customers. So, if you're interested in Glean, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Molly. I know I'm speaking on her behalf, but it's really a joy to bring this technology to shops and help them understand how we could help them. So, feel free to reach out to us. From a overall perspective, our engagement, we really want to make sure the customer is, feeling like Glean and is executing on their behalf throughout the entire engagement. So whether it's engaging through our website, asking for a demo, whether it's seeing us at a conference, right? We want to make sure that we're giving you all the resources you need to make an evaluation on whether Glean can help you at every step. And we have an entire go-to-market team that's dedicated to doing that. So whether you're reaching out to a Glean salesperson or talking to someone at Glean at a conference or on our website requesting a demo, the initial conversation is typically a discovery for us to just understand what you're looking for, what your organization, whether it's an initiative perspective or from a challenge perspective, is dealing with, and then helping align the right resources for you to be able to validate if Glean is that solution. In some cases, it's a tailored demo. In some cases, it's a pilot. We have a lot of tools and resources and people at our disposal, and we're growing very, very fast and investing heavily in this area to be able to support our customers in both pre-sales and post-sales motions.
So I have another question with regard to your last point, which is all of the resources that you're building out. And that is, does Glean have a mobile app? And I guess my follow-on to that would be, what would be enabled within that mobile app if that exists?
It's one of my favorite questions, Doug. And we have a mobile app. I use it on the train into the office every day to help me, be productive during my train ride. So we have a mobile app, and it essentially gives you Glean in a mobile app. It looks a little different because of the size, but you have the search capabilities, you have the chat capabilities, and they are the same connectivity that you have across your entire corpus, just in your phone now. And I could probably spend another 15 minutes about specific examples of how game-changing that is to be able to take Glean with you where you go. But I think we all already know, because we have other tools that we keep with us handy to be able to do that.
So with regard to kind of the mechanics of generative AI, there's obviously a large language model sitting underneath this somewhere, which I'm assuming is Glean's. Does the end user have to use the Glean LLM?
No. So, the short answer is no. In terms where at Glean, where we're focused on is enabling customers Gen AI deployments. And if customers want, have a preference on the large language model, if they want to use OpenAI, we're LLM agnostic. So, customers can bring their large language models and leverage Glean with those. Molly, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
By default, Glean uses Azure OpenAI as our LLM that powers the generative functionality. But as Gopal mentioned, our goal is really just to enable you to use whatever makes most sense. So we do allow customers to bring their own key and integrate with the LLM of their choice. So again, very flexible under the hood. And what's great about that is that we know that this is a very quickly changing industry. The top model that is in use today is going to be different from a few months from now, even. So we don't want our customers to have to be locked into, say, Microsoft's model when the industry is changing so quickly. So one of the advantages of Glean is that you can change the LLM that you're using at any time, and we make that a quick and easy process with our self-serve setup.
Let's talk about how fast the market is changing and how fast all of this technology is moving. We have a few more minutes left. I'm curious if you have some advice that you would provide. Gopal, I'll start with you. If you have some advice you would provide to folks that are watching a show like this and kind of starting to put this on the priority list, right? So they know it's coming. They know they need to start thinking about it. They're probably a little hesitant, quite frankly, because there is so much movement and there is so much innovation happening, and they're just coming up to speed with the solution like Glean. What would you say is kind of the best way for them to start thinking about this sort of consideration cycle that they need to get into?
Yeah, Doug, I think there's two things. I think number one, when you think about the enterprise search problem, for a lot of shops, they don't even know they have that problem yet because there hasn't been something there to solve it, right? It's kind of the problem you didn't know you have, but then, when I got Google Maps in my life, I don't know, I can't live without it now, right? Could I get around without it? Maybe. But so there's that conversation of, hey, get to know Glean, understand what Glean could do from you from an impact perspective. And even if it's something that hasn't been on your radar of, oh, is it difficult to, find information? Maybe you've just been making the most with the tools you have, but you don't know what things could be like, right? And that's on the search side. Number two is on the AI side. And in there, customers are in many different phases of their journey, right? Maybe you're just trying to figure out, can we even bring Gen AI into our enterprise? Maybe you've gotten to that point, you said, okay, yeah, we're tinkering around with a couple of different tools, but we don't really know where this thing can help us yet, right? In that case, I think the assessment you want to make is, what do I really want to get done this year in terms of AI? And I think for most shops saying, as a science experiment, doing an AI science experiment this year is probably not what we're looking at as the ideal business impact. And so if you think, hey, what can I get done? Well, employee productivity is obviously a top in the Gen AI space. And a solution like Glean, if I could bring in a solution that could be a turnkey solution, I wouldn't have to spend months deploying it. It would be days. I wouldn't have to hire a team of engineers to maintain it. And I know that it would be secure completely right off the bat. Is that something that would be a compelling initiative for me to look back at the end of this year? Right? And if the answer is yes, then you should definitely come talk to us.
Yeah, and I think as we wrap things up, I think actually you may have pointed it out, or maybe I saw it on a Glean post, but the CEO of NVIDIA specifically referenced search as a kind of key practical way to take advantage of all that's happening in generative AI, particularly within the enterprise. So it's an exciting time. There's no doubt about it. And again, we would encourage everybody to head over to glean.com and see everything that's happening there. It's a very compelling demonstration that Gopal did today, and there's lots more information out there, all kinds of practical applications, and every day there's more use cases coming out. So that would be a great way to start. We would also suggest everybody come to Solutions Review and check out all that we're writing about with regard to generative AI, certainly, and Glean in specific. And then if you thought this was valuable and you thought that others in your organization should see this sort of a presentation, we would encourage you to share this. We'll make it available, and we would encourage you to pass it around, because this is something you need to come up to speed with, and Glean is by far and away a solution that everybody should be familiar with. So Gopal, thanks very much today for the time. This was great. I love these sorts of these presentations, and I love bringing this sort of solution to our audience. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Doug, for having me. It was a pleasure, and thanks for having the team as well.
You bet. So there you have it, another solution in our spotlight. We want to thank Glean and Gopal for that presentation, and we appreciate your participation as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.